There's a photo of you somewhere that you deleted. You looked at it for maybe 2 seconds, decided something was wrong. Your face, your body, your smile, and made it disappear. You've done it more than once. Everyone has. The thing about that small flinch of not good enough is that it didn't come from inside you. It has a birthday, it has an inventor, and it has a price tag. In 1921, a company had a product almost nobody wanted, a mouthwash. One that started life as a surgical disinfectant, the kind of thing you'd use to scrub floors and clean wounds. So they went looking for a problem it could solve. And when they couldn't find one big enough, they did something that quietly reshaped the next 100 years. They invented one. They took an old, half-forgotten medical word, halitosis, and put it in their ads. It only means bad breath, something people have had since there were people. But dressed in a lab coat, given a Latin name, it suddenly sounded like a diagnosis. Something wrong with you that you hadn't noticed yet, but everyone around you had. Then came the ads. A woman named Edna. Pretty, kind. Always a bridesmaid. Never a bride. And the whisper under every one of them, maybe it's her breath. Maybe that's why she's alone. It worked better than anyone dreamed. Their sales went from about $100,000 a year to over $4 million in 6. They didn't sell a cure. They sold the wound and charged you for the bandage. And it wasn't just breath. A soap called Lifebuoy spent years teaching people to dread 3 letters, B-O, warning that an odor you couldn't even smell on yourself could cost you friends. A marriage, even your job, your own sweat, turned into a source of shame you could buy your way out of. Then your skin, your hair, your weight. In the span of about 20 years, a whole catalog of brand new flaws was quietly added to the human body, each one arriving conveniently alongside the product that fixed it, because someone in a boardroom had done the math. A confident person is a problem. A confident person already feels like enough. They buy what they need, and they stop. But a person who feels not quite good enough, that person never stops. That person is a customer for life. So the most valuable thing you could manufacture was never a product. It was a feeling. The quiet sense that something about you needs fixing. By the 1950s, this had moved out of the ad break and into the classroom. There was a whole genre of little films shown to millions of teenagers that promised to teach them how to be a normal, likable, acceptable person. They had titles like Are You Popular? And How to Be Well Groomed. They look almost sweet now. They aren't. Watch one and you see what it's really doing. It takes a nervous 15-year-old and hands them a checklist. This is how you should look. This is how you should sit. This is what a person people like does. The message underneath was always the same. There's a correct way to be a person, and you should be quietly afraid you're getting it wrong. And they showed you the cost of getting it wrong. In these films, there's always a kid off to the side, the shy one, the odd one, the one who didn't read the checklist, and the camera treats them like a warning. This is who ends up alone. You learned the lesson without anyone ever saying it out loud. Be like everyone else or be left out. For a teenager, there is almost no fear stronger than that. They found it, and they pressed on it, and it worked. Because it turned you into your own supervisor. You didn't need anyone standing over you anymore, pointing out the flaw. You'd learned to do it yourself. In the mirror, in the photo, in the half second before you walk into a room. And if you're a woman, you got a heavier dose of all of it. The films, the creams, the ads. A huge share of them were aimed at girls, teaching them from childhood that their face was a project, their body a problem to be managed, their main job to be pleasant to look at. Generations of women grew up believing that Discomfort with their own reflection was just part of being female. It wasn't. It was taught. It was sold. There's that psychologist again, Erich Fromm, the one who watched all of this being built. He said something that lands even harder here than it did with the shopping. He said modern people began to experience themselves as a thing to be sold. You become both the salesman and the product, and your worth becomes your price. How well you go over with other people. Attractive enough, impressive enough, likable enough. The trouble with living like a product is simple. A product can always be improved, so you can never, ever be finished. And to keep you unfinished, they needed just one more thing. Something to measure yourself against. For most of history, you compared yourself to the few dozen people in your town. Then the magazines came, and suddenly your ordinary face was up against the most beautiful, most retouched faces in the country. You were always going to lose that. You were meant to. Because every time you fall short, you reach for something. A cream, a diet, a fix that promises to close the gap. The gap is the whole business. They will never let it close. So, see it clearly. This was never vanity. It's a machine. One that installs a small, permanent sense of not enough, points you at a standard no real person can reach, and then rents you the ladder, one rung at a time, for the rest of your life. The insecurity isn't a side effect of the ads. The insecurity is the product. Now look at your own hand. The magazine turned into a screen that never runs out, and it did something Edna's ad never could. It filled up with real people, friends, strangers, every one of them showing you their best angle, their best day, their most flattering light. A feed built almost perfectly to make you feel a step behind. And then gently, it offers you the fix, the filter that smooths your face, a version of you that's finally acceptable, floating right there on the glass, just slightly better than the real thing. You reach for it without even thinking. Same wound, same bandage, faster. Sit with how strange this is. You've spent real hours of your one life disliking the way you look, a reaction you were trained to have by people who profited from it, most of them long dead now. They rented space in your head, and they never moved out. This is the one thing they spent a century making sure you'd never quite believe. You weren't born hating anything about yourself. A baby doesn't look in a mirror and feel ashamed. That flinch was installed carefully on purpose and sold to you as a Latin word, a checklist, a filter, by people who needed you to feel just broken enough to keep buying the repair. You don't have to win this tonight. You just have to catch it happening. Next time you delete the photo, or reach for the filter, or feel that quiet not enough settle in, stop for 1 second and ask whose voice that actually is, because it was never yours. You're going to start hearing it everywhere now, and once you can hear it, it starts to lose its grip. That's what this channel is for.